speak about, we want to learn UiPath, and we say this is the concept that you should know so that you can scale your automation. You can make your automation very, robust or stable as per your understanding. Okay. So let's not waste time, and let me quickly share my screen and let me know if you are able to see my screen. Okay, so I got a couple of confirmation. Thank you for that. So let us start the session for the day. Okay, so beginning that, let me quickly open up the UiPath Orchestrator portal. So as in, I hope some of you would have gone through the material as in what is UiPath Orchestrator or what is all about UiPath Orchestrator. If not, it's okay. I'll guide you across, how to work with UiPath Orchestrator and so on. Okay. How do I hide this bar over here? Okay, can anybody give me a quick suggestion or solution? Okay, it's gone. Thank you so much. Okay, so this is the UiPath orchestrator portal that we always talk about. And speaking of which, let me quickly log out of this and show you how to log in into UiPath orchestrator first. So we have a URL. So the URL is this. The URL is cloud.uipath.com. So I'll request everyone to please make a note of this website. So the website name is cloud.uipath.com. And on top of it, we also have one more domain called as platform.uipath.com. Both of them redirect to the same page. Okay. I hear a lot of background noise. If people do have a question, please unmute yourself and speak, or else you can post your queries on the chat box. So I'll be answering all the questions that are there in the chat box. Okay. So we'll just log in into this website. So the website name is cloud.uipath.com. And once you enter the website, so the website will ask you to log in. So basically there are three options to log in. So right now, since it is accessed via my Google account, so it's not forcing me to show you. Let me log in again from another tab. Okay, sorry for that. Let me open up incognito mode, and I'll show you how to sign up onto that platform. There you go. So basically you have three options to log in into the cloud platform. So it's either you can log in via your Gmail account that you have, or you can log in via the Microsoft account, or you can log in via the LinkedIn account. You can use any of these three, or if you want an explicit ID or a password for this portal, you can pass your email address and you can pass your password, and then you can log in or sign up to the website. So I'll request everyone to sign up for this orchestrator account. This is basically the cloud portal, and if you have logged in, then let us quickly sign in into the portal. So I've logged in using a Gmail account. So let me quickly sign in with the Gmail account that I have. So basically, what happens in this website is this is basically a cloud platform wherein the orchestrator is visible, and apart from that, you have all the resources available that you can download from here. So if you look carefully over here on the right hand side of the screen, there is a section called as Resource Center. So I hope each one of you, who's working with UiPath Studio would have downloaded UiPath Studio from here. But just to give a brief revision about it. So if you click on the Resource Center, so from here you can download the UiPath Studio version. So either you can download the So either you can download the enterprise version or you can download the community version. As community version said is a free version and it is free to use. So you can download and start working with it. And post that we also have the enterprise edition, which is a paid version when you'll have to purchase the license. But as if you are using it for your learning purposes, then there is no difference between the community version or the enterprise version. You're free to use the community version, and you can start learning, and you can build your own personal bot automation also using the community edition. let us head back to the UiPath Cloud Platform page where I'll show you how to log in into the orchestrator. Okay. So I see a lot of background noise from there. So if anybody can put a comment on the chat box, as in is there any question or am I not audible or something? Okay, so is my screen visible to everyone? Okay, you're audible and it's visible. Okay, thank you so much. I'll proceed further with the session. Okay, so as I said, the cloud.uipath platform is the website where you can log in into your cloud account, and then from there you can access, either you can download the community version or the enterprise version of the studio, or else you can log in into the enterprise orchestrator portal. So before moving into orchestrator portal, let me also speak about the interface about. So over here on the bottom side of bottom screen, you can see the number of licenses you have. So ideally, I'm using an enterprise version. So that's the reason I have access to 5 attended robots and 5 attended robots. So if you're using a community version, so you will have access to 2 attended robots and 1 unattended robot and 1 testing robot. And that does not makes a difference between what I'm presenting now and what you will be doing later. It's going to be the same for each and every one of you. So if you see on this screen, I have a tenant. The tenant's name is, or the service name is called as UiPath default. Now it might differ upon how you have registered into the website. So while registering it asks you for which college you belong to or which company or which institution you belong to. So depending upon the name that you're provided, the service name would be created with that respect. So click on their service name, and then this is how you can start your orchestrator. So there you go. You see a very beautiful animation saying your UiPath orchestrator is getting started up. That's okay. That's fine. So this is the interface that the UiPath orchestrator will look like. So for me right now, what I've done is I've cleared all the orchestrator resources because since I've been using this orchestrator for a quite long time. So I have just cleared all the resources. That's the reason you can see some of the graphs which is visible here, but there is no data at all. So because since I wanted to show as a clean orchestrator, because when you log in for the first time, the orchestrator also is going to be the same for each one of you. Okay, so now let's first speak about what is orchestrator and what is robot. How do we communicate to each another? Before moving ahead, let me get clear clarification. As in, I hope people have a clear understanding about what is UiPath Studio, what is UiPath Robot. Can somebody put a comment on the chat box saying yes, you have understood, or if there is some doubt on respect to topic with that, what is Studio, what is UiPath Robot? Okay, so I got a few responses, so it's fine. I'll just quickly revise what is UiPath Studio, what is UiPath Robot all about. So UiPath Studio is nothing but an ID. As in, say, for example, when you do a Java programming language, so you have an ID for that. So, for example, we use NetBeans or Eclipse ID. The same is UiPath Studio, and UiPath Robot is the execution environment. As in, if you code some workflows using UiPath Studio, and UiPath Robot is where all the execution is being processed. Now we have another very cool feature called as UiPath Orchestrator. Now, as the name suggests, orchestrator is nothing but entity who manages everything with respect to UiPath Robot. As in, your UiPath Robot is always in control with the UiPath Orchestrator. So UiPath Orchestrator will say when to start when to run, what to run, what to do, what not to do. So those things will be spoken by UiPath Orchestrator. Now, before getting into UiPath Orchestrator, the first thing that we need to do is we need to connect the UiPath robot. That is the UiPath robot which is sitting in your machine that has to get connected with the UiPath Orchestrator. So as you can see, the UiPath Orchestrator is a web portal, as in it is hosted on web and it is completely free to use for everyone. So we need to make a connection between both of them, as in your UiPath robot and the UiPath Orchestrator should be connected to each another. To do that, what you need to do is you need to open up the UiPath assistant or the UiPath robot. Now, as the name suggests, you can see we have UiPath assistant over here, and some of you would also have UiPath robot. Now, I would like to make a clear, definition between both of them. So, okay, I see a lot of background noise from here. Okay. I'll request everyone to please mute yourself. Okay, I don't see I have an option to mute everyone. I have only option to mute myself. Okay, that's fine. Let us proceed further. Okay, so as I said, all you have to do is you'll have to search for UiPath robot or UiPath assistant. In our case, I have UiPath assistant, so it purely depends upon which version of UiPath Studio you're using. Let's say, for example, you're using UiPath Studio 19.10 or something. So in that version, we have UiPath robot. And moving ahead in the latest version, we have changed it to UiPath assistant. So for example, you have UiPath assistant and some of you would have UiPath robot. It is going to be same. The only difference is the interface will be a little different, but at the end it is going to act as the same. So do not bother or do not panic about saying I have UiPath robot or I do not have assistant, I have robot. All of them are the same at all. There is no difference between them at all. Okay, so now speaking to that, I have a UiPath assistant, so I'll open the UiPath assistant. So here you go. So this is the UiPath assistant panel which gets open for me. Now, what you need to do is you need to click on the setting icon and then click on the preferences. Now, when you click on the preferences over here, let me change it to light mode so that it is much more visible. Now, over here, you can see there is a setting called as orchestrator setting. Now, in this orchestrator setting, you need to pass the orchestrator URL and also you need to pass the orchestrator machine key. Now you'll get the orchestrator URL and you'll get the orchestrator machine key from this orchestrator portal that we have. So now let us go ahead and generate a machine key so that we can connect our robot to the UiPath orchestrator. To do that, on this orchestrator portal, under the management section, click on machines. Okay, I'll request everyone to please mute yourself because there is a lot of background noise and which is disturbing me. So Prabhat Singh, I can see you are not muted. Please mute yourself because it's causing a lot of disturbance. Thank you so much, Prabhat. Okay, so as I was saying earlier, so what you need to do is under the management section, click on the machines. So I want each one of you to please make a note of it because this step is going to remain the same for every time when you create a machine or connect to the orchestrator. So we have different sections here. We have monitoring, automations, testing, actions, and so on. But from the first category that we're interested is the management category. And from here, we'll click on machines. Now you can see a plus icon here which says add a machine. So if you add a machine, there is two options available to you. We can add two kind of machine. One is the machine template and the other one is the standard machine. Now let me tell you what's the difference between both of the machines. If you want to create a standard machine, so standard machine basically means you will be only creating a standalone machine, as in your desktop or monitor will only be directly connected to the UiPath orchestrator. But say for example, you connect a machine template, then in that case, what happens is any machine can connect to your UiPath orchestrator. So it's like one-on-one over here, but it's one-to-many options over here. So click on the standard machine in our case. So we'll click on standard machine, and over here you need to give the machine name. Now your machine name should be exactly same that is given in the UiPath robot or UiPath assistant. So if you open your UiPath assistant over here, you can see this is the machine name that it has acquired by himself. So just copy this machine name and paste it over here. So this is the machine name that we're going to use. You can add a description for your understanding. So in our case, I'll say this is my standard machine. Okay, so there is just a description which will help me to rectify it when compared to what is going on in the future. So for example, if I have many machines created, I can distinguish by reading the description. So let us go ahead and assign some license to it. So in your case, each one of you would have one unattended license. So the same case I'll do here. I'll assign one unattended runtime license to it. Let's go ahead and click on provision. So here you can see the machine has been created, and it is giving an option saying you can copy the key from here. We'll copy the key later. Now let us go ahead and do the next step. So the first step was creating machine. So the second step over here is you need to create your robots. To do that, what you need to do is you have an option called as robots in the management section. Click on the option robots, and then over here you need to create a robot. Now creating a robot also has two options. Either you create a standard robot, or either you create a floating robot. Now the difference also remains the same over here, as in, say for example, you create a standard robot. That means your robot will be only connected to the UiPath orchestrator. Say for example, you create a floating robot. So you have multiple machines. So what you can do is multiple robots, as in one robot at a time, multiple robots can connect to your orchestrator portal. So there's the difference between the standard and the floating robot. In our case, we'll go ahead and create a standard robot. Now click on the standard robot. Now, if you see here, when I click on the standard robot, the first option that it is asking me, or that it is telling me, is choose a machine. Since we are creating a standard robot, it is a bit obvious that you need to select a machine, and that too of the type standard machine. So if I click on the drop down box, you can see the machine name is easily available to me. This was the machine name that we created earlier. So if you do not create a standard machine, you cannot create a standard robot. The rule is as simple as that. Now let us go ahead and create a robot name. In my case, I'll say this is Robo1. That is my robot 1. And from here, I'll choose the type as unattended robot. Now, you have two more options here, wherein it is asking you to provide the domain/username and also the password. Now, the domain/username is nothing but, say for example, your Windows machine has a lock on it. Say for example, when you start your machine, or when you close your machine, lock your machine, and when you unlock it, you have a password for it. So it is that username and password that you have to pass here, so that your robot can also have an access to your machine. So now the first thing you need to provide is the domain name and the username. So how will you get the domain name and the username? So you can open the command prompt, the CMD, and from here you need to type a command. The command is who am I. So I'll repeat again, the command is who am I. So this is your domain name/username. We'll copy this and we will paste it over here. Perfect. Now you need to just provide your password for it. So let me just type the password for me. Okay, there you go. Yep. So this is the password for my machine, and I'll go ahead and I'll say create. So now you can see the robot has been created, but what you can see over here is the robot status is disconnected. Now, what do you mean by disconnected? As in, it says that the robot is created, as in you have provisioned the robot, but the robot is not able to connect to your UiPath robot that is there in your studio. Now, what do you mean by that? Basically, is we haven't established a connection till now. As in, my UiPath robot that is sitting in the desktop hasn't connected to the UiPath orchestrator platform. To do that, we will use this orchestrator setting in the assistant and will connect here. So we have to pass two things over here. One is the orchestrator URL and the second is the machine key. Now, where will you get the orchestrator URL? You'll get the orchestrator URL here from the address bar. So from here, I'll copy the service name and the account to tell the service. There you go. So I just copy it and I'll paste it in the UiPath orchestrator URL. Now, next thing you need to do is you need to pass a machine key. So if you remember earlier, we created a machine. So this is the machine that we have created. So you can just click on this. So your machine key has been copied. Come back to your assistant, paste your machine key, and then click on the button called as connect. Now here it says connecting, connected, and license. So now my UiPath robot. Okay. So Ajay Kumar is saying. Okay. So the speed. Okay. Is it the issue with everyone? Am I lagging in the audio and the video?
No.
Okay, fine. Let me switch to some other network that I have. Okay, it's no, then I'll continue with this. Okay, thank you so much. Let me proceed further. Okay, perfect. So, as you saw here, we connected with the orchestrator URL and we provided the machine key. And then the moment we said connected, it is connected and licensed. We can also go ahead and verify with the robots here. So you can see now the robot is available. That means the status now it is able to acquire a license, and you can see a green color here, which is now the robot has been successfully created. Now we have done the very important step, as in we have connected our UiPath Studio to the UiPath orchestrator. That means now they can communicate with each another. So very simple setup. I hope everything is fine. If anybody has a question, please, put a question or unmute yourself and ask so that I can answer this, because this is very important to understand what is the steps for connecting to the orchestrator portal. And after that, I'll just tell you how to use the orchestrator portal now. I'll pause for a couple of minutes. So if you have anybody's having a question, unmute yourself or ask a question in the chat box. If not, I'll proceed further after a couple of minutes. Or if all of you would have understood it, so please give me a confirmation saying yes, understood in the chat box, so that I can get a confirmation, I can proceed further. Okay, thank you so much. So before moving ahead, so in this robot section, if you can disconnect again and connect again. Okay, cool. I'll explain that, Ajay sir. I'll do it once again. So I'll just disconnect this. So as you can see, the moment it goes disconnected here, you can see the robot is disconnected, and you also get an error in the screen saying your robot has been disconnected. Okay, so I'll quickly repeat the steps that we have done so far. So the first thing that you need to do is you need to click on your machines and you need to create a standard machine for yourself. So this is the standard machine that we have created for ourselves. The next thing that you need to do is you need to create a robot. So you click on the robot section and then you add a standard robot, and make sure you select the standard machine, give a name, and then from here you need to choose the unattended license, and then you need to provide the domain name and the password here. So how do you get the domain name and the username? If you remember, it's well and fine. If you don't remember, we can use the command prompt, and from the command prompt we have a command. The command name is who am I. Hit enter, and this is the domain name and the username. Copy the domain name and the username and paste it over here, and the password for your machine, and then click OK. Now the next thing that you need to do is you need to connect your orchestrator to the robot. So how you do is you just copy. I'm sorry for that, I'm not able to access that. Okay, now I get it. So all you have to do is you'll have to copy this URL, as in starting from HTTP till the service name. So the service name in my case was UiPath default. So I'll copy this and I'll go to the UiPath assistant or the robot. Under the orchestrator setting, I'll paste the URL here. The next thing is we need a machine key. So you can get the machine key from here. So see, you can directly copy the machine key from here. Either you can click on the vertical ellipsis icon, and from here you can say edit, and then here you can see the machine key which is generated. So you can also copy the machine key from here. Awesome. So going here again, pasting the machine key, and I'll say connect. Let's wait for it to get connected. Now it's connected and licensed. You can verify from the robot. Yes, the robot is up and live. So it's running. Perfect. I hope this is fine. Let's proceed further. So now the next step is you need to create an environment for your robot. So in the same robot page, you have a different tab called as environment. Now environment, is nothing but, in any other programming language, let's say for Java, so you have a runtime environment for it. So the same thing goes over here. So if you want a robot to be running, the robot should be provided an environment, as in a space. So within that space, the robot will be running. So environment in a case, let's say for example, you're working in all of you, of course, are working in your any of the institute or colleges you belong to. So your college might have different streams into it. Let's say, for example, your college have IT stream or a computer science or a mechanical or civil. So what you can do is you can have a different environment.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Disturb you, sir. Actually, the problem is for me that your voice is very clear and accurate, but the screen you are showing is lagging. Like whatever actions you are telling, but that action is not getting displayed. It's bit late. So if you can just disconnect and connect like your screen.
Okay, sure.
Thank you.
I'm just connecting to another network, so I might. Okay, so I just connected to a new network. Kindly help me give a confirmation. Am I audible or is my screen visible to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so now as I was telling, so you can have a different environments. So for example, you have IT, mechanical, civil, and so on and so on. So each one of you can create your own environment, and then people can execute the robot in that particular environment. So in our case, I'll just create an environment. Let me give the environment name as IT, and let me go ahead and create an IT. Now, when you create an environment, the environment tab will prompt you with a screen wherein it will say, now that you've created an environment, now tell me which robots, which robots you want to run into this environment. So in our case, we have only one robot created, right? So we'll choose this environment from here, that we'll choose this robot and we say, add this to this environment. Awesome, it's added. You can also verify, click on the vertical ellipsis icon and click on click on manage, and here you can see that this robot is added to the environment. Perfect. So our setup over here is completely done. Now let me go ahead and start up the UiPath Studio. And in the UiPath Studio, what we will do is we will do a very simple program, as in we will use message box and we'll say connect to the displaying hello world or something, and then what we will do is we'll make use of orchestrator now over here. So let us go ahead and create a new process. So let me give a process name. So for example, I'll just give simple, I'll say I want to print an hello message. So my process name is hello message, and let me go ahead and create the process. Now let us wait for all the dependencies to get restored, and once that is done, we'll go ahead and create our very own process, as in our own project. And what we will do is now we'll upload this process to the orchestrator. Now I have not explicitly told you exactly what is the capability or what is the power of orchestrator as of now, because I wanted you to see in the live demo. So now let me introduce you to the actual power of orchestrator. Till now, what we have done is we have done just the setup, as you know, how to connect with the orchestrator, and all the setup is done. Now let us come and see what is the actual power or what an actual orchestrator can do. Now, if you remember, till date, if you're using UiPath Studio or you have attended this session, each and every program that you would have built, and when you run the program, each and every program you would have always run using the UiPath Studio, this option itself, as in click on the play icon and then say run or debug or whatever is it. Now, let's say for example, you have built a project and you have to deploy it or you have to publish it into some XYZ machine. Or say for example, let's speak about the development field, the industry field. I developed a project and I want to, put this developed project or give this project to the customer who demanded it. Now, what are we assuming is that the customer should also install UiPath Studio and then he should always open the studio and then run the workflow. This is not going to be the case. He's not a developer, and to be frank enough, he's not even, a technical person who can understand how to you open a studio, how to open an ID, how to run it. For him, it should be like a click of a button. I'll click this should start running, as simple as it is. So orchestrator is that guy who will help you out to, at a click of a button, either it could be a web portal or from the UiPath assistant, you just click on that and that automation will start running on its own. You don't need to open up UiPath Studio and then start doing it. And not only that, it has many more cool features. I'll introduce you in this course or in this session throughout. So let us go ahead and quickly build our automation. So in my case, as I said, I'll be using only one message box activity. So I'll drag and drop the message box activity here. And in this message box activity, I'll say this is first orchestrator program. Awesome. Let me quickly check if it is running fine. So we should get a message box which says this is the first orchestrator program. So everything is working fine. Now I'll tell you the important step, as in how to publish this code to the orchestrator. So if you see here on the ribbon bar, we have a button called as publish. Click on this button publish, and from here you can see the message, that is the process name. The process name was hello world. This has to be, published into the orchestrator. So if you click on next over here, so here you can see you have an option where do you want to, publish it, either to the orchestrator or to the custom URL. In our case, we'll say I want to publish it to the orchestrator only. Now, this option will only be enabled or will only work if your orchestrator is connected, as in this setup has to be completed. If this is not connected, then this publish will not happen. So let's go ahead, click next, and there is no certification needed, and then we'll say click on publish. Awesome. So now we got a confirmation over here. So the confirmation says your project has been uploaded successfully. This is your project name and this is the version. So by default, the version was 1.0.1. If we wanted, we could have changed that. I'll say okay, done. Let us head back to the UiPath orchestrator. Now, over here, under the automation section, click on processes. I'll repeat again. Under the automation category, click on processes. Click on the plus icon here. And from here, you can see that the project we added is available here. Since I said I have n number of options available. But if you remember, our message was, or our process name was hello message. This is available here because we uploaded into the orchestrator. And you can also see here the version. The version in our case was 1.0.1. And here you can choose which environment do you want to run this program. Since we created only one environment, IT, so I'll say I want to run it into the IT environment. I'll go ahead and I'll say create. Awesome. So now you can see the process has been created and it is up and live and running. So if you navigate back to the UiPath assistant over here, so over here you could also see the message over here. So as you can see, the process hello message underscore IT now is also available in our UiPath assistant over here. So the moment you upload it into the orchestrator and you put it under the process, So it's also available in a UiPath Assistant robot. So now your customer or you can run your program directly from your assistant. So let me close everything and let me only open the assistant from here. So from here, all you have to do is click on the play icon and then your process will start executing. So you can see the status job has started processing and here you got your process running. That is your first orchestrator program. And then you can see done. So we have successfully run it. So this is one of the way that you can run from your assistant. Plus, you can also run it from your UiPath orchestrator. Now, let's say for example, in my case, I'm in Mumbai, so I have my code or I have my robot live and running in Mumbai. Now, let's say for example, tomorrow I go to some XYZ village. Let's say for example, I move to Singapore. Now, how do I run that bot? I don't have an access to my machine, but I still want that bot to be executed. That's absolutely you fine. You can do it. Open your UiPath orchestrator portal. Since it's a web portal, you can open it from anywhere. And on top of that, we also have UiPath orchestrator mobile applications also. So we have it for we have it for Android and we also have it for iOS. So it's by the name UiPath Orchestrator. So you can directly start your job from your mobile, or you can start your job from the UiPath Orchestrator web platform. How do you run? How do you start your job? Over here, you see a play icon. You can directly start a job from here, or under the monitoring section, you have a different section called as jobs. Click on jobs, click on the play icon, and from here, select the process. So in our case, the process is what? Hello message underscore IT. And if you see underscore IT is nothing but the environment. So every time any of the process that you run, it always is appended with the in which environment it is going to run. So underscore IT is the underscore environment name. And from here, you need to select on which robot do you want to run. So I'll say in my case, I have only one robot. I want to run it into Robo1. And I'll click start. Now you can see the job is running. Okay, why is it faulted? Okay, so let me quickly see what happened again. Let me run it from here and see why it got failed again. So I'll select here and I'll say start. Okay. Okay, so Chaudhrit Mane, if you can please mute yourself so we hear a lot of background noise from your side. Okay, so let us see what exactly went wrong. Why aren't we able to run this? The username or the password is incorrect. Okay, that's fine. So since probably my license is getting expired as a reason, so you can see my license is only available till 9th of September. So today is 11th of September. So probably that was the reason. But this is how you can also start running a job from here. But if you run the job over here, you can see the option as in the sources from where it is running. So here you can see assistant where it says this job was started from the assistant, or if you say manual over here, that means this job was started from orchestrator. If I run this job again from here, let's say for example, if I run the Hello World IT again from here, so you can see the status is updated over here. You can see this is running. This is by the source assistant and it's still running because I haven't closed the automation. The moment I say OK, you can see the job has been successfully completed over here. So this is the way in which you can, start your execution, run your bot, and either it could be from your UiPath assistant or either it could be from your UiPath orchestrator. So I'll take a pause here for a couple of minutes. And I'm open to any questions that we have using how to publish a code and how to run a code. So if people have understood, give me a confirmation so that I can proceed further. Or if you have any doubt, please ask your questions by unmuting yourself or in the chat box. Okay, so if you have understood, please give a confirmation in the chat box so that I can proceed further. Or if you have doubts, please ask it out. Okay. Okay, so Chaudhary Mani, I got your question. So I would request you to please unmute. So please mute yourself. We hear a lot of background noise from your. Thank you so much. Okay, so is asking, can we fill the attendance in ERP? Yes, obviously you can do that. So as I said earlier, so I take session for most of the faculties and academic across the universities and academic across the APAC region, and we have implemented it. So majority of my faculties who have attended session from me, so they have started building bots for themselves. So they fill up the attendance bot from them. So they have their own ERP system. Every college, I hope, have their own ERP system. So they just upload the data into the Excel sheet, and then they read the bot reads the Excel sheet, and then automatically marks everybody absent are present in the ERP portal. Not only that, they also make use of the UiPath bot to get enter the score of a student into your portal, or get the score from the portal. So we have n number of use cases that we have done. So all the faculties who have attended session with me. Okay, I heard someone asking a question, but I'm not able to hear you clearly. So you can put your question in the chat box, or I'll be happy to answer that question. So as I said, the imagination is up to you. So you can automate anything, everything that you want. But as long as a human can do it, the bot should be able to do that, because it's all the logic that you need to build. And not only that, we did one of my faculties did the certificate bot building, as in they just organized a virtual conference for everyone, and wherein at the end of the session, so each one of the participants who have attended, they would have got a certificate. So instead of a person or a faculty manually sitting entering the name of the participants and then sending it across to a mail, the faculty implemented it using the UiPath robot, wherein all the participants entering or attending the seminar was their names were there in the Excel sheet. So the bot picks up the value from the Excel sheet, enters the name into the certificate, and then emails the certificate. Then he picks up the second name, enters the name into the certificate, and then he emails it to the particular individual. So in that case, they were able to get 300 400 certificate done within a fraction of minutes. And they did not wasted a time, because certificate printing takes a lot of time, right? So this is just one of the use cases that we can do. So the imagination is up to you. You can implement any use cases that you have. So please feel free to implement it and showcase it to the UiPath world. Will appreciate you. So we have our group community created. I'll suggest everybody to join the community so you can learn more about UiPath. So that's all about. Let's not waste time here. Let us proceed to the session that we have. So I just got a question. People are asking, how did you uploaded your packages to the UiPath orchestrator? Good question. I'll do that again. So over here, so if you remember, we just created a message box and then we clicked on publish, and that was it. It's as simple as it is. But you can also, update your processes. Say, for example, I need an updation here. So I'll say now, instead of the first program, I'll here now say this is my second orchestrator program. Now I need to update this. This is the same project. The project is not changing, but the data in the project is changing. It's fine. We can do that. So I just updated it, and I'll say click on publish. So I'll say click on publish. Awesome. So over here, you can see now the older version was 1.0.1. Now the new version is 1.0.0. You can edit the version. You can put any number that you're interested in, but I like to keep it as 1.0.1, 2, 3, and so far. And you can directly click on publish, because I know the publishing option is directly to the orchestrator itself. I'll click on publish. Okay, so over here we got a confirmation which says the project has been successfully published. The process name is hello message and the version is 1.0.2. Let's head back to the orchestrator portal. And in this orchestrator portal, let's go to the process section. And in the process section, you can see we have an icon here. With the icon says updates are available. As in, the orchestrator has come to know that there is a new process for it. So just reminding us that I have received a new update for it. So I'll say, okay, let us go ahead and update that. So click here and then click on view process. Over here, you can see the latest option is available here. So I can click on this icon, use, and I'll say, go ahead with the new version that I'm interested in. Awesome. So now you can see we are using the current version of it. So as you can see, this is now up and running, and it says the current version is 1.0.2.1.0.2. Now you can always click on this orchestrator from here, and then from over here, if you just run this bot, so you should be able to see the updated process. That is, this is my second orchestrator program. So even you have the feasibility to run the previous version also. So you can go on again the previous view process option, and then you can say I want to use this. So orchestrator gives you the flexibility to run any version of the processes that you want. Today you're working on one process, and tomorrow there is an updation and you updated it, and then you run the new process. But then later there's a requirement where client said, no, I don't want this, I want the previous version again. So you can say hit use over here, and now you can see this is again back to the version 1.0.1, and when you run this, it will run the program. That is, this is our first program. So this is the cool functionalities about how to upload a process to the orchestrator and how to run the code from there. Now moving ahead, let us quickly talk about one of the very cool and interesting feature that the UiPath orchestrator has. So we'll be talking about something called as assets. So if you see here, we have an asset section. So under the automation, we have a section called as assets. Now assets are nothing but information that you need to store. So let me go ahead and tell you what is assets all about. So if you click on the add icon here, so over here you can see we have 4 types of assets. We have a text asset, we have a Boolean asset, integer, and a credential. But text asset is basically when you want to store any textual information. A Boolean for Boolean value, obviously, integers for storing numbers, and credentials is basically for using passing a username and passing a password for it. Now, why you should use an asset, or what is an asset basically? Now, let's say for example, you are building an automation. So you have, say for example, you said, I want to open up a website. So you just type your website name saying www.google.com or uipath.com or something. And then later when you publish your code, and when the client again says, my website has changed, I don't need that website anymore, I need a new website. Now in that case, it's a pain now wherein you have to rework on the code again, as in edit the code again, publish back to the client, and then the client works. But we have an option called as assets, where you store your asset in the UiPath orchestrator and directly use that asset here in the code. Now next time if the client says, I need an updation on this, or if says, I want to change this, it's very simple. You don't need to change the code at all. The code will be up and running. All you have to do is come to the orchestrator, under the asset, change the asset value. That's it. And everything will be sorted. So I'll tell you what I'm talking about, or what is the assets all about. So let me go ahead and first create an asset of the type text, and let me give a name to it. In our case, I'll say the name is username. Okay, so I'll keep it simple. I'll give the asset name as username, and over here you need to give a value to the username. So let me go ahead and say the username. In my case, I'll type my name, so the name is Niyaz. So now create an asset. So we have an asset created with the name uname, and it holds a value called as Niyaz. Now let us head back to UiPath Studio, and in the UiPath Studio, we will call that asset and will print the value, and I'll show you what is the value that is going to be printed. So for asset, we have an activities for it. So we will be using get asset activity. Please make a note of this activity. The asset name is get asset activity. I'll drag and drop the get asset activity. Now under the properties panel over here, you see there is an option called as input, where it is asking for an asset name. So our asset name in our case is uname. So what I'll do is I'll copy this asset name, and I'll paste it over here within the double quotes. Awesome. So my asset name is there. Now what get asset will do is get asset will search for an asset name called as uname. If in case he finds an asset with the name called as uname, what he'll do is he'll fetch the value. So value in our case is what? Nias. So he'll fetch this value, and what you have to do is you have to store it in a variable. So in the output panel, sorry, in the output section, under the value section, we'll go ahead and create a new variable. And over here, we'll give a variable name called as value. Let's say, for example, we'll keep it simple. We'll say value. Awesome. So now what we will do is in the message box, we will print the value variable. So as per our understanding, the first get asset will run. Get asset will fetch the value. It will store it in a variable called as value. And now we are going to print the value called as the variable called as value. Let us run this bot and see what is the output for it. Okay, so the bot started running, and now you can see here we got the message that is Nias, as in the values was fetched absolutely perfectly fine. Now, what we will do is we will edit this asset. Now the customer says, no, I don't want this name. I want some other name. So in our case, I'll say the name is Bob. I'll just update the asset. That's it. The asset is updated. Come back to the iPod Studio, and there is no updation happening here. I'll simply say run the bot. So now in our case, we should get the value that is Bob. Perfect. So we got the value that is Bob. Isn't it interesting? As in, you don't need to change the code as of now. There's no need to update the code because we are every time going to connect with the orchestrator, and from the orchestrator, we are going to pull the values and get the information each and every time. So this is all about asset, and in the asset, let me quickly show you one more cool feature. As in over here is creating an asset of the type credential. Now, asset as in UiPath Orchestrator, all the assets are stored with an encryption AES-256 encrypted, as in it's highly secured. So there is no discrepancies, or there's no doubt that what if I store my username or credential. It's all encrypted, so you can happily, without any error, you can save your username and password in the assets under the orchestrator, and you can directly use it over here. Now this also plays a role in the security. Let's say, for example, you put your code, publish your code to XYZ person, and then when they want to open your code, if they open the code in the studio, they can also see your username and password, correct? So that is the way in which you are making your code public, and it's in high risk. So you can use the credentials asset, and you can type your assets in the username in the orchestrator, and you just use the activities in the studio. And now nobody, also not even you, would have an access to your username and the password, but it will work absolutely fine without any error. Now, so for that, I'll just log in into our website. So we have our own website called as Acme Test. So just for testing purpose, so I'll log in over here. So let me just quickly copy the login name. So this is the login. There you go. So I'll just copy this. So over here in the asset, I'll just create a asset of the type credential. Let me give the asset name. So the asset name is login Acme. And over here, you can see we have the username and the password column. So in the username, I'll pass the username, and let me just pass my password here. So this is my password. I hope the password is fine. Let us go ahead and create there you go. Now, the credentials are so secure that, say for example, if you go and edit again, you cannot see the password for yourself again. So it's highly secured way of protecting your password. So now even you don't have an access to the password, but the password still exists. So if you update your password here, then the previous password will be discarded and it will be updated with the new password that is created. So now we have created an we have created an asset of the type credential, and the name is login Acme. So let me quickly go ahead and create a workflow. So say for example, let me quickly get rid of this and also get rid of this. So I'll use an open browser activity. I hope everybody is clear with this activity called as open browser. So drag and drop the open browser activity, and within the double quotes, I'll pass the URL over here. So you could also have used the URL over here. So what we'll do is, we'll make use of this. So since we have done everything, so I'll just pass the URL here. I'll change the asset name to URL. Awesome. Perfect. So I'll make use of this called as URL. So instead of passing this, I'll also get the URL from the asset. So for that, make use of asset. What is the asset name? In our case, the asset name is URL. Let me verify. Yes, it is URL. And let us give me a variable. Let us give a variable to it. So I'll store it in a variable called as URL. That makes sense. And over here in the open browser, I'll say URL variable. So now this URL variable will hold the URL of that website and it should open up. First, let us see if the website is opening up successfully. So there you go, the bot has started and the Internet Explorer has also started. Where is the Internet Explorer? It's here. And you can see we were able to, successfully open up the login page using the get asset, the URL asset over here. Now let us go ahead and build the rest of the automation. As in, we need type into activity, right? So I'll drag and drop the type into activity. There you go. One type into for password. Where is the type? So I'll say this is the email address. And we can't use a type into for password. We have a different activity. The activity name is called as type secure text. So I'll use a type secure text for password and I'll say this is where I'll be putting my password. And I'll use one click activity. So this click activity is going to be responsible for clicking on the login button. Awesome. Now the only thing that is left is to get the credential asset. To get the credential asset, we have a different activity. So you can't use the get asset now. You have to use another activity. The activity name is get credential. So I'll drag and drop the get credential over here before the input. Over here, you see you have to pass the asset name. So in our case, the asset name is login Acme. So I'll just copy this login Acme from here and I'll paste it in the asset name. Awesome. Now you have two outputs, one for password and one for username. So let us go ahead and create a variables for that. Control K for creating variable, and I'll say create a variable with the name email. And for password, I'll create a variable with the name pwd for password. Perfect. So in the type into activity for email address, I'll pass the email, and for the password, you have an option here. As you can see, what do you want to type here? The secure text. Over here, I'll pass the variable pwd. Sorry. Perfect. So now there is no validation. So we have used get asset for opening up the URL, and we have used the get credentials for email address and for password. Now let us go ahead and run the bot and see everything in action. So an Internet Explorer should open up. There you go. Email address, perfect. Password, perfect. And it clicked on login. Let me see if I was able to successfully log in. Yes, I was able to successfully log in. So here is the cool feature of what is assets and how do we use an asset. I'll pause here for a couple of minutes. So this was all about asset. So if you have understood about the asset, give me a confirmation in the chat box saying yes, understood, proceed further. Or if anybody have a question, please unmute yourself or speak, or please type your password in the chat box. I'll be happy to answer any of the question that you have. Okay, so Jabin is asking, is it automatically logged in? Build the automation. In the automation, we said email address, password, and then we said click on login. That's the reason it logged in. Any other question on asset? So get asset, get credentials, anything. If you have understood, please give me confirmation so that I can proceed further. Okay, so I got one confirmation. I'm waiting for two more confirmation, then I'll proceed further. Okay. Awesome. So let us go ahead and do the next topic or address the next topic for the day. So we have a concept called as queues. So if you see under the automation category, we have a concept called as queues. Now, what do you mean by queues? So a queue is nothing but a basic definition of English as in, everybody standing in a queue and the person in the first is addressed and he will be processed. So the same goes with the orchestrator also. So you can create queues in the orchestrator and sorry, and depending upon the queue values, you can process the information. Now, let me first brief you about why should we use queues or what is the basic functionalities that you should use queue. Now, let's say for example you have an automation use cases where it's like you have say for example let's take the certification example because I have addressed that example before. So you have to prepare certifications for all the participants who have joined the seminar and you have to give them the certification. So the UiPath robot is doing the job. That's fine. Now let us assume that you have or you organized an seminar or a webinar, whatever is it, into a huge number. Say, for example 10,000 people attended it. And your bot obviously is capable of sending 10,000 certificates for sure. Now, say, for example, your bot has started processing all the items. And then say, for example, you are at 5,000, you have completed 5,000 entries. And all of the sudden, there is some external error happening. Say, for example, there is no internet connectivity now. Say, for example, your system crashed, or any other factor. It could be some code error, or validation error, or something selected not found, or something error could have happened in between. So now you have the bot has only successfully published certificates of 5,000 people. Now, next time when, for example, the internet connectivity is back or your system has started up and everything is up and fine, and when you run this code, again, what will happen? The bot again will start sending certifications from the first participant. In that case, you have to manually go and check what was the last certification that was published, and then manually edit the code or edit the data, as in remove all those data whose certification has been published, prepare a new Excel sheet, and then pass the new Excel sheet. So it's a pain again to do all this setup. But in that case, if you use orchestrator queues, that is going to help you solve the problem. You don't have to bother about anything over there. So for example, so what we do is we will build a process into two sections. The first section we call this as a dispatcher, and the second process we call it as a performer. I'll repeat again, please make a note of it. We call it by the name dispatcher and we call it by the name performer. So dispatcher is the person who is responsible to send data into the orchestrator. Say for example, the Excel file that you have, you will first send all the data that you have in the Excel sheet to the orchestrator queue. That is the job of the dispatcher. That is also very helpful. You put it in the queue and then you can run it whenever you want. Now comes the performer. So the performer is the person who takes values from the queue one at a time. So he'll take only one value from the queue and then he'll process it. If the process is successful, then he goes again, picks the second value from the queue, and then he does it. So in this way, let's say for example, you are at the 5000 element. So 5000 certification from the queue has been done. And when you're doing the 5000 and first record, all of the sudden there is some error. The program stops, everything stops. Now when you run the code again after everything is sorted, you have updated the status in the queue saying all my 5000 queues were successful. Now the bot will only run the queues whose status is new. So he will skip all the successful and he will start from the 5000 and the first element, second, third, and so on and so on. So this is one of the best advantages of using queues. I hope people would have understood what is queues, what I'm talking about queue, right? Any questions in the queue so far? As in any explanation in the theory part, as in what is queue? Have you understood the queue? Obviously, I'll tell you how to implement it now. If you have understood, please give me a confirmation in the chat box, please. Okay, awesome. So I've got a couple of confirmation. Now let us go ahead and create a queue. I'll show an example how to create a queue. Very beautiful example. Okay. So under the automation section, under the queues, click on the plus icon which says add and create a queue. So here you need to create a queue or give a queue a name. In my case, let me go ahead and give the queue as form data. So I'm giving the queue name as form data. Now it has options over here. You can always give a description to the queue to make it more meaningful. And you have unique references. You want only a unique value, duplicate values will be skipped. Those references can be set. Auto retry, yes, as in how many times you should retry. So this is going to be used when we touch upon the RE framework topic, the second session for the day. So it's like if a queue is getting an error or it has faced an error, then instead of proceeding further, what he'll do is he'll retry the same queue again and then proceed again and then proceed further. So in our case, we'll leave it, sorry. In our case, we will leave it to the default value and we'll say the queue name is form data and I'll create a queue. So now you can see over here, we have created a queue. The queue name is form data and you can see, there is 0 remaining 0 because we haven't added any values into the queue. So how do you see the values inside a queue is click on the vertical ellipsis icon and click on view transaction. So now over here you can see that the queue is empty. There is no data. So we haven't added anything into the queue as of now. So let me go ahead and add some values into the queue. So to do that, let me quickly download an Excel sheet. I hope you would have gone to this website called as rpachallenge.com. If in case not, it's a very beautiful site. You can go ahead. I just need an Excel file from here, so I'll just download the Excel file from there. So let me paste it into the website. Sorry, let me download it into the desktop. There you go. So there you go. It's downloaded. Awesome. So now here you can see I have an Excel sheet. So what I'll do is over here is I will be using a form. I have already built a form for you so that people can use this as an example. So here is the form called as contact details. So what you have to do is you have to use the data in the Excel sheet, and with this data that you have in the Excel sheet, let me just zoom in, people can see it clearly. There you go. So this is the Excel sheet. It has 10 records and every record has roughly around 7 fields. So all these records has to be inserted into this form. So this has to be done. So the same thing that we were discussing, instead of certificate, this is the one that will be doing it. Now to do this, we'll make use of the queue. As in, first we will put these values into the queue, and then later from the queue we'll take values from the queues and we'll put it into this sheet. So let us go ahead and create a process. So I'll just create a new sequence for it. I'm not going to create again a process because it's time consuming. So here what I'll do is I'll create a sequence with the name queue dispatcher. There you go. Perfect. So now what we need to do is, first thing we need to read the Excel file. So we know we have an activity. The activity name is called as read range. So I'll use the read range activity and I'll just point out to the sheet. The sheet in our case is challenge, and the data in my case is the entire Excel sheet. Awesome. Now I'll store it into a variable. So let me go ahead and create a new data table variable. So Control K for creating a variable, and let me give a name to this called as form DT, that is form data table. So what we have done is we have just created a read range, use a read range activity, and we have taken values from the Excel sheet and we're storing in the variable called as form DT. Now the next thing that we will do is we'll make use of the queue activity. So we have a different set of queue activities available. So we will use our queue activity called as add queue item. Drag and drop the add queue item. Now in this add queue item in the properties panel, over here you can see we have an option called as queue name. So you have to mention the queue name that is there in the orchestrator so that the values can be uploaded into the queue. So in our case, the queue name is form data. So I'll just copy the form data and I'll paste it in the queue name section. So within the double quotes, I'll paste it over here. Awesome. Now the next thing is I need to enter the values from this Excel sheet into the queue. So in the add queue items in the properties panel over here, you can see we have an option called as item information. So click here, and from here you will insert all the values from the Excel sheet, that is row, into the queue. So let me first create an argument. So if you see this, what information do we have here? We have first name, last name, company name, role in company, address, email, and phone number, and so on. So let me go ahead and first put the first name value into it. So what I'll do is I'll just create an argument. I'll say the argument name is first name, and over here I need to add a value across it. Now, since we're using, for each we're using a data table. So obviously we need to use a for each row activity, because the for each row activity is going to loop across each and every record. So I'll insert each and every record into the queue. So for that, I'm using a for each row activity. Now here I'll pass the data table name. So the data table name is form DT. I'll drag and drop the add queue item inside this. So now every record, as in every row, will be inserted into one queue. Then this row will be inserted into the second queue, and this row will be inserted into third queue, and so on and so on. So let us go ahead and fill the values over here. So this goes here as first name, and over here I'll make use of what row. So I'll say row of 0 is first name, right? So I'll say row of 0 dot toString. I'll add another argument. So the next data in my case is last name. Last name is present at the second column. If indexing starts from 0, it's going to be row of 1. So I'll say row of 1 dot toString. Let me go ahead and create another. We have company name next. So over here, I'll say company name, and then this is going to be row of 2 dot toString. So given the interest of time that you have, so From this Excel sheet, I'll only take these values. I'll take only first name, last name, and company name. That's it. Let us skip this. This is going to be the same. So you can add more arguments and you can do it in the same way. So we have done for three values. We have done for first name, we have done for last name, and we have done for company name. Okay. We are done. Sorted. So I'll repeat once again what we have done. We have used the add queue item. Over here, you need to give the queue name. Make sure that the orchestrator is connected or else this is not going to work. So the queue name is done over here. And then over here in the item information in the collections, you have to mention all the things that you need to add. So this is the thing that we need to add it from the data table. Awesome. Let me close this Excel file and let me run this program. So I'll run the file. It's an individual file. So let the bot started running. Let me do a quick refresh and you can see that we have the data uploaded into the queue. You can see we have all the 10 records updated into the queue. Let me open the first record for you. So click on the vertical ellipsis icon and say view details. Say this value, the first name, last name, and the company name. Let me click on this last value. And over here you have Lara, Palmer, and the time part. You can also, verify from the Excel sheet that we have, if in case people have doubts. So we'll say, so this was the Lara time path, and the first value was John and the IT solution. So our first thing was, done absolutely fine. As in, we were able to do the dispatching, as in we were able to get the values into the queue and we have done it. Okay. So I have a question here in the chat box. So Anand is asking, what if the sum entries are null blank? Does it give error? No. So it will not give an error. So it will consider as a null value. So default values will be taken over there. Okay. So let us proceed further. So the queues has been added. Now let us move ahead to the second part. That is the performer. So performer is the guy who is going to, fetch values from the queues and then he will execute the queue. So let us go ahead and build the performer. So let me go ahead and click a new sequence, create a new sequence. I'll name this sequence as queue_performer. And I'll say create a performer. Awesome. Now, what do we need to do over here? Over here, we need to fetch values from the orchestrator queue. So fetching values from the orchestrator queue is also, gonna be very simple. So you can work with the sequences. It's obviously a linear process, is absolutely fine. But if you use a flowchart over here, that is, going to make, much sense because you will be able to understand it, in a diagrammatical manner, in a clear manner, I'll say. So since we have already created a sequence, it's okay. So what we'll do is we'll just create a flow. We'll use a flow chart inside it. So I'll use a flow chart and let me just open a flow chart. Now, in this flow chart, the first activity that we're going to use over here is get transaction item. I'll repeat again. We are going to use the activity. The activity name is get transaction item. So I'll connect it with the start node. Now, the get transaction item over here, what it will do is it will fetch a single value from the queue and it will give to you for processing. To do that, if you see in the get transaction item in the properties panel, here you have a queue name. Here you need to mention the queue name. So in our case, the queue name is form data. So you can verify from here, the queue name is form data. So we have said the queue name is form data. Now, so this get transaction item will first go and find the queue name, that is form data. If it is there, then what he's going to do is he's going to fetch the first queue from there. Since it is going to fetch a first queue from there, you have to store it. So you have to store it in a transaction item variable. So if you see the value for it, transaction item is nothing but a queue item. So the queue that we have item in the queue. So the variable type is queue item. So we'll create a new variable. We advise it, to keep the variable name as transaction item because that is much more meaningful. But you are free to use whatever name you wish to use. So in our case, we'll say it is the transaction item. Now we need to check if the queue or if there is a transaction item or if the transaction item contains something or not. So for that, we'll use again a flowchart activity or flow activity, and where we'll say flow decisions. Now in the flow decision, in the condition part, we will check if the transaction item is nothing. So what we are checking over here is if the transaction item is nothing, we will end it. As in, we'll say stop the automation. If the transaction item, that means if there is queue present, then we'll say okay, proceed ahead and do the following function. I hope this makes sense to everyone. Sorry. So let me go ahead and fill the else part of it. So in the else part, I'll use basic, a comment over here, and in the comment box, I'll just connect them together, and in the comment section, I'll say done, and we're not going to do anything. So I'll say no transaction data, end it. So this is the end for us. So there is no transaction data and we are going to end it. Now over here, if it contains a value, what we need to do is we need to fill that web page, right? So for that, we first have to get that web page and we need to, enter values inside that web page. So it's very easy. So we can do that. So for that, let me, go ahead and create a sequence. So I'll drag and drop a sequence here. There you go. I'll connect this inside the sequence. Let me go ahead and connect them. And inside the sequence, we will do everything. So for that, we will use this page. Where is that page? There you go. Let me copy it into the Internet Explorer. Okay, done. So let us go ahead and instead of saying opening, I'll say attach the browser. That makes sense. And I'm going to attach this browser. And then we will use a type into activity. So I'll use the first type into activity and I'll drag here and I'll say where do I need to type? I need to type the first name. I'll use then another type into activity and over here I'll say this is the last name. And since we did only for 3 values, so I'm going to use the another type into activity for company name. So this is done. And to proceed further, we have a submit button, right? Yes. So let me go ahead and do a click activity on the submit button. There you go. Awesome. Okay, what happened? So I'll drag and drop the click activity again and we'll say click on the submit button. Now let me just put a random value into it because the form, when you click on submit, this is where you say I want to submit and another response. So there you go. So what we'll do is we'll perform another click activity here and we'll say submit and another response. So if you submit another response, then it comes back to this page and then it is going to start filling up the values. Okay, so this is done. Now the next thing that you need to do is over here is you need to fetch the values. As in you need to get the values, what values that you have stored. So if you look at the queue that we have updated over here, so the queue is holding the values, as in this is the argument name that you gave, first name, last name and company name. So you need to call them via this argument name itself. So how will you do that? You will go to the UiPath Studio and if you remember here, we are using a variable that is the transaction item. So every transaction item has a queue value. So we'll make use of this transaction item over here. So let us go ahead and over here we'll say transaction item dot, please make a note of it. We'll say transaction item dot specific content. and within the braces, you need to mention the name. So in our case, the name is first name. Let us convert it into toString to get rid of validation error. Awesome. I'll repeat this again. So I'll tell you what we are typing here. So if you remember, we had created a variable called a transaction item. So this transaction item dot specific content property, and over here within the course, we'll say the next element that we uploaded was last name. And let us convert it into toString to avoid the parsing. There you go. And this is the last thing. So in our case, this is again going to be the same transaction item dot specific content. And within the braces, we said company name and capital following camel casing, and we'll convert it to toString. Awesome. This is done. Now let us head back to the page here. So if you see here, we're first starting the transaction and we are getting the transaction item, and in the transaction item we are doing a flow decision. If the transaction item is nothing, we are ending it. Or if the transaction item does consist of value, it comes to the sequence. Now in the sequence we are entering only one value. Now what we will do is, if everything from the sequence is completed, we'll say him again go back to get transaction item. Again take a queue value and then check if there is a value in it. If the queue contains something, come back again, do the transaction, then again go and get the transaction item again. So I hope this helps to understand. And now let us go ahead and first let me quickly show you the status of all the queues. So the status of all the queues is still new. So all the queues will be processed. Let me quickly go ahead and run this application. Sorry.
The Google form requires all the elements to be mandatorily entered.
Oh, yes. Okay. So I get you, sir. Thank you so much for that. So, okay. So, we are over time. So I hope I'll execute this when we start the second session. So I'll tell you how to do that. But I hope everybody has understood this process, how to take a value from the queues and how to proceed further. If yes, give me a thumbs up over here. Understood? Okay, so I got a couple of confirmation yes. Okay, cool. That's fine. Okay, so this is all about queue. We had a very small topic. Let me quickly address that. It will only take a minute for me to give about you. So we have a topic called as triggers over here. So triggers are nothing but scheduling a bot. Let's say for example you want to start a bot at a particular time, so you can schedule your unattended bots from here. So I'll show you a time trigger. So you can see I'll select a process. In our case we have the process name as message IT. Let me give a name to it. So I'll say this is my time trigger. There you go. And then what you can do is you can specify which robots you want to run to, and from here you can see you can tell him that I chose my time zone here, and then here you can tell him for every 5 minutes run this bot automatically. So you do not even need to start the bot from the orchestrator. The bot will automatically start after every 5 minutes. Or you can say him every hour, on this particular hour, this particular minute run this bot. Daily, as in every day at this particular time run this bot. Or weekly, as in every Monday, Friday, Sunday at this particular time run this bot. Or monthly, that is every 3 months starting from now, on Monday, Friday on this particular time run this bot. And we also have an advanced, this is the cron expression. So cron expression is nothing but you have a website for it. So it's called as cron maker. So over here, you need to also specify the same thing. So let's say for example, I go for a monthly and I'll say on the 9th day of every second month starting from now. So today is what? September. So September, October, November. So starting of November, every 2 months. On the 9th of November, run the bot on this particular time. I'll say generate the cron. So this is the cron expression for it. So this is equivalent to every ninth day of every coming 2 months. That is, today is what? September, October, November. So on November the bot will run, and then December, January the bot will run, and so on and so on. So you need to just paste the cron expression over here. So this is equivalent to what we have set over there. And obviously you can say stop the job at this particular time or disable the job on this particular date, as in when you hit this particular, say for example, when you hit 2021 on July, stop this bot. So the bot will stop on that particular day. Okay. So this was all about orchestrator, people. So I hope within this given time I'm able to explain you what is orchestrator, how to use orchestrator, and so on. The queue example, we will shortly see them once we come back to the next session, and eventually I'll also make use of queues in the RE framework example also. So in that time I'll show you both RE framework and queues together. So I hope this session was, helpful to you. I hope everybody would have understood it. Please give me a confirmation feedback, as in if you have understood it. So there's a question with Jevin asking: is this the way Autocrat and Certifying develop? So I'm not sure about what is Autocrat and Certifying, Jevin. So we can discuss this later if you want, because I'm not aware of that software that you're talking about. Okay, so thank you so much, guys. So I hope you will come back again. I think so. We'll schedule back again at 12. So tell them take a break, get yourself refreshed, and then we'll come back soon. Thank you so much for attending this session, everyone.